23. So this is where we start to get in there. This is everybody's under 2.5 GPA here for the rest of the list. Number 23 on the composite GPA. Check the mic. It's the Seattle Seahawks. Another interesting one. They range from a C- to a B. I mean, this honestly comes down to what you think of Geno Smith, Sam Darnold, and then say DK Metcalf and Cooper Kupp. Those are the biggest moves. And then it comes down to, like, did they solve their offensive line questions? And I think that's still a fair question for Seattle. Go Gray Zabel in the first round. Did they still do enough on the offensive line? Seattle, another team, I think, with a wide range of not wide range of outcomes this year. I kind of like their roster, but they made some significant moves this offseason, moving from Geno Smith to Sam Darnold.
Yeah, it's tricky because you almost need to be in the building to understand the moves that were made, right? The Geno, it's difficult to paint a picture where the net of Geno Smith and DK Metcalf to Cooper Kupp and Sam Darnold is positive, right? Even if you factor in the money involved, it's difficult to come to the conclusion that that's a net win for the Seahawks this offseason. At which point, the only way it makes any kind of sense or is justifiable is if the relationships were between the team and those players were so toxic that there was no way of resolving it, right? And that was driven on the player side, that, like, the team didn't piss them off to create this situation. You know, it was not a rod of their own back, or a rod for their own back. Obviously, we have no way of knowing that from the outside, so you can only really look at this and say, in February, we looked at this team and said, this is a very good team that just needs an interior offensive line fix. And they didn't fix that for a long time into the offseason and created two new completely different problems in the meantime, right? It's like you took a very good team and you got rid of the quarterback and you got rid of its number one wide receiver or number two wide receiver, depending on how you view them. And then you still needed to fix the interior offensive line. So I think that's why you end up with this sort of average, nothing great, is it's just difficult to come away from that feeling great about everything.
I mean, it also depends on what your perspective is on, say, Darnold and Geno Smith. And, oh, by the way, let's throw the DeMarcus Lawrence love in there, one of my favorite offseason signings. Seattle with a sneaky good defensive line. They have loaded up on the defensive line. Leonard Williams coming off of a career year. Byron Murphy heading into year two. DeMarcus Lawrence added to the mix there. Boye Mafe. They've got, I think, a talented and deep defensive line. But you can I've made this argument. Sam Darnold's best season was better than any of Geno Smith's 3 years as starter, the last 3 years. But you've got Geno Smith with 3 years of pretty consistent play. Like, you pretty consistent know what you're getting from Geno Smith, I think, at this point. Where after year one, we were like, let's wait and see. He's coming off being an 8-year backup. So now we're in that mode with Sam Darnold. Let's wait and see. He's coming off being a backup for 4 years. But his season last year was better than, I think, anything Geno Smith put together, at least statistically. And then you add in, well, he had KOC and he had Justin Jefferson, and so maybe that's skewing things a little bit. But you could make the argument that that's a lateral move at quarterback, depending on how you want to weigh maybe Darnold's one season versus Geno's 3. And then you've got, they move on from DK Metcalf. They bring in an older Cooper Kupp, and it looks a little worse, I think, at receiver. But I think they did get better on the defensive line, and they come in with the same questions at offensive line. So why is Seattle here? Every time you say, well, they did this good thing, but there's this other question, and they did this good thing, but there's this other question, and that's what lands you here.
Yeah. I mean, I think they did make some nice moves in the offseason. Like, Gray Zabel is one of my favorite players in the draft. I think that was a fantastic pick, and one that we were not sure that they were going to do, given their philosophy in drafting interior offensive linemen early. Nick Emenwari, Elijah Arroyo, Jalen Milroe is a smart addition where they got him in the draft as well. I think they had a nice draft, but it's just hard to feel good about the moves that didn't feel like they needed to be made in terms of the quarterback and the wide receiver thing. Now, maybe they did, right? And that's the thing we don't know, is maybe from the outset, maybe from the second Pete Carroll left the building, Geno Smith is like, I am done with this poverty franchise, and there's nothing they can put on the table to make me stay in this hellhole, right? I'm sick of the rain. I want into the desert. Look, I mean, you think that's a coincidence? Rainy all the time in Seattle. Where's he gone? It never rains in Vegas. It's a desert. maybe that was the case, right? At which point there's nothing John Schneider can do except get what he can for the quarterback and move him on, right? But from the outside, it looks like you voluntarily got a little bit worse at two of the most important positions in the NFL. That doesn't feel like a good offseason. Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.